This wasn't just a random post because one word from Maxx Crosby just reminded the entire league of something important. His situation isn't fully settled. And when a player like that is still in play this late into the offseason, it's not about what he meant. It's about who's actually ready to make a move. This might be a bigger problem than anyone expected because one word from Maxx Crosby just reminded everyone of something the NFL hasn't fully resolved yet. His future isn't locked in. Bang! That's it. No context, no explanation, just one post. And suddenly fans, especially Chicago Bears fans, start connecting dots. But here's the problem. This isn't really about the tweet. It's about what the tweet exposed. Because Crosby's situation is still open. And that's where things get interesting. On paper, this should already be settled. Elite pass rusher, face of the Raiders defense, 5-time Pro Bowler. Players like that don't usually float in uncertainty this late into the offseason. They're either clearly staying or already gone. But Crosby, he's in between. And that in-between space in the NFL is where things start to get unpredictable. Because not long ago, the Raiders were actively exploring trade scenarios. This isn't speculation. That door was already opened. There were offers, real ones. At one point, a deal with the Baltimore Ravens was close enough to feel real. 2 first-round picks. That tells you everything about how the league values him. But then it falls apart. Failed physical, knee concerns, deal rescinded. And just like that, Crosby goes from almost gone to still here, but not fully stable. And this is where the real issue begins. Because once a team shows it's willing to trade a cornerstone player, that idea doesn't disappear. It lingers. Internally, around the league, in locker rooms, in front offices, everyone now knows it's possible. And this is where Chicago enters the conversation. Because the Bears have been quietly circling this situation for a while. They need a game wrecker on defense. They need identity. They need someone who changes how offenses game plan. Crosby checks every box. Relentless motor, elite pressure rate, tone setter energy. He's not just production, he's presence. But here's the problem. This isn't just about talent acquisition. This is about timing. Because Chicago is building something, young quarterback, developing roster. They're not one piece away. So the question becomes, do you spend premium assets, potentially multiple first-round picks, on a player who might not align perfectly with your timeline? Or do you stay patient? And that's where it gets complicated because elite pass rushers don't just appear. You either draft them or you pay heavily to get them. There's no middle ground. And Crosby is already proven. So now you're weighing certainty versus cost. Immediate impact versus long-term flexibility. And that's a decision that defines front offices. Now let's zoom out because the biggest factor here isn't Chicago, it's Las Vegas. What are the Raiders actually doing? Because their actions don't fully match their position. If Crosby is untouchable, why explore trades? If he's available, why not move him when value is at its peak? That contradiction matters. Because it suggests uncertainty inside the organization. And in the NFL, uncertainty creates opportunity. Other teams notice, they wait, they prepare offers. And as Jeremy Fowler pointed out, the market hasn't closed, it's just slowed down. That's a key detail. Because in the NFL calendar, timing changes everything. Right now, quiet period. Closer to the draft, activity spikes. Closer to the season, urgency kicks in. And when urgency hits, prices change. Leverage shifts. Decisions get made faster. So Crosby's situation isn't frozen. It's building slowly. And that's what makes that one-word post feel different. Because whether he meant it or not, it reminded everyone he's still in play. Now, here's the part most people miss. This isn't just about whether Crosby gets traded. It's about how teams interpret risk. That failed physical, that matters. Not because it defines him, but because it introduces doubt. And in high-value trades, even small doubts become big factors, especially when you're giving up first-round picks. So now teams have to ask, are we getting the same Maxx Crosby, or are we paying for a version that might not hold up long-term? And that question doesn't have a clear answer yet, which brings us back to Chicago. Because for the Bears, this is a fork in the road. Aggressive move or disciplined patience. Do you go all in on a proven star and accelerate your defense overnight? Or do you trust your build, keep your picks, and grow organically? Both paths make sense, but they lead to very different futures. And that's why this situation matters more than a tweet. Because Crosby isn't just a player in trade rumors. He's a decision point for multiple teams, for multiple timelines. And the longer this uncertainty lasts, the more pressure builds on everyone involved. So the real question isn't what bang hack meant. It's this: when the moment comes, which team is actually willing to pull the trigger? This might be a bigger problem than anyone expected, because one single word from Maxx Crosby Fries just reminded everyone that his situation isn't settled, not even close. Bang hack. That's it. No context, no explanation, just enough to set off speculation across the league. And yeah, maybe it's nothing. Maybe he's watching basketball. Maybe it's random. But here's the problem. With Crosby, nothing feels random right now, because his name has already been floating in trade conversations. The Las Vegas Raiders explored moving him. A deal with the Baltimore Ravens nearly happened. Then it didn't. Failed physical, knee concerns, everything paused, but not over. And that's the key, because this situation didn't end. It just slowed down. And this is where it gets interesting. Teams are still watching, still waiting, still hoping the price changes. And one of those teams, the Chicago Bears, they've been circling this for a while, looking for a true defensive cornerstone, a game wrecker, someone who changes everything up front. Crosby fits that perfectly. So when he posts something like that, fans don't see randomness, they see possibility. And that's where things start to feel a little off, because if you're truly locked in with your team, these moments don't create noise. They don't spark questions. They don't reopen conversations. But this did, immediately. And that tells you something about where things stand. But that's not the full story, because the real pressure point hasn't hit yet. The draft, that's when this could shift fast, because right now the market is quiet. Teams are evaluating, waiting for leverage. But once picks come into play, everything changes. And suddenly a team like Chicago could make a real move, the kind that forces the Raiders to decide, are we rebuilding or are we holding on? And if they hesitate, that's when deals happen. So now Crosby's situation lives in this weird space. He's still a Raider, technically secure, but practically still in play, still being discussed, still one offer away from everything changing. And that's why even a one-word post matters, because it doesn't have to mean anything to remind everyone that something could happen. So now the question isn't what bang meant. It's whether the next real move is coming sooner than anyone expects.